Hi Stampers, this is Lisa. Welcome to our class. Today we are working on cards. As you know, my name is Lisa. I'm with Queen Bee Creations and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I go live here on Facebook and on YouTube at the same time on Mondays and Thursdays at 2:30 Mountain Time. And today we're working on 3 different cards. That's one of them. This is another. And then this will be our third. And we're doing these because I was asked by one of our viewers here to show them more ideas for the Oceanfront stamp set, because a lot of what's online is very similar. They've done these 3 stamps just in various colors, made the same kind of look, and we did that on Monday. But today we're doing something different. We're going to do some color blocking with it and show you how we can do something other than a scene for today's cards. So welcome everyone. I see Janet popped on, and I want to give a shout out to Janet. She made me this beautiful card. Someone had given her these dies and she wasn't able because that person didn't know how to work them. So that's how she found me, or one of the first things she did when she found me was found out how to use these dies, and she has gotten very good at it. And today is my anniversary. My husband and I have been married 32 years today. So thank you, Janet, for my beautiful card. Let me move you down here. This is the cards we're working on today. We can go ahead and get started. I think I'm going to start out with this one because this is your typical, what I would call color blocking, is I just took blocks of color as my background and then layered over it. So I've got my standard card base, the 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4. And then I have a layer of designer series paper that is also old olive, so they coordinate. This is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it's just a little tiny sliver smaller than the front of our card. And then this one here is 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. And that's what we're going to color block on. And then I'm bringing in some of our old olive ribbon. This came in a pack. There was this, and then there was a I don't want to say crumb cakes, a hair of sand, kind of a lighter colored ribbon. It came in a set. And then I used the flowers from Nature's Harvest. Now again, it's color blocking. It can be absolutely anything in the background, but I'm just choosing to do it with this set of flowers. So like I said, I'm going to take this block right here, and I'm just going to put it on a clear block. And then what I did, because I wanted some light colors, is I brought in some scrap paper and I made these lighter than the actual colors. What I have here is crumb cake, pear pizzazz, and balmy blue, but I wanted them a little bit lighter than they are. And that's one of the tricks I tell you about all of our colors, is if you don't have enough colors in your palette and you want more, one of the things you can do is do a second generation of a color. So I'm going to stamp this onto my scrap paper, and that would be my standard balmy blue, but I wanted it lighter. So I'm not going to re-ink. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to go straight to my paper. And so that's giving me what we call second generation. So it's just a lighter shade of the same color. Welcome, Linda. I'm so glad you made it live. Don't forget, everybody should type in #Prize Patrol, because you will win one of today's cards if you are the winner that we spin at the end. So #Prize Patrol. Go ahead and type that in. Okay, So I'm cleaning off my stamp. Then I'm going to come back here, and this time I'm going to do crumb cake. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp onto my paper. Clean off my stamp. And over here I have the Stampin' Scrub. Hopefully you're familiar with that. And then my Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to stamp off. And then onto my paper. So that's basically my background. Now on here, I wrapped it around the whole front of the card. And you can choose to do that. As you can see, I've kind of got a splice in the back here where the two ribbons meet. You can also choose to tuck it underneath the designer series paper, and that would hide the ends. Or you could tuck it underneath the white. Because the ends of ribbon, any kind of ribbon, does tend to fray a little bit, and that would hide it if it did fray. And I'm going to go ahead and ease out of my way before I stick an elbow in it. I'm the only one that does that, right? Sticks my hand into ink pads with her left open. Okay, so I'm going to take our bow maker tool. This is something my husband made. I sell them on my blog. They're just $10 and they're super easy to use, and they always give you the perfect bow. So I'm going to start out by just kind of wrapping it around, and I call it a cancer ribbon in the front. I don't know what else to call that. But then I'm going to tuck my bottom one underneath, and I'm going to pull it to the back. I'm going to pull it over the top and then tie a knot. And that's all there is to it. I'm pulling the ends straight because this is the direction I want my tails to go. If I wanted the tails to go down, I would pull them this direction as I'm making the knot. But check that out, the perfect bow. So that's going to be ready to wrap onto here. And I kind of pushed it to one side, and that's why I wrapped it all the way around the whole thing, because I wanted the flowers to be behind it. And I guess it would work if we put it there. But you get what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere this. And so I'm using Stampin' Seal. Again, I'm making sure that it snaps off up here. I know I say that all the time, but I still have people who say they have issues with it. And I almost never have issues with it, as long as I make sure it breaks off at the tip and my case is really clean. See, Wendy's with me. She stuck her elbow in the pad. That's why we're friends, right? Okay, let's see. It's one of my favorite things about stamping is that's how I met most of my friends. Wendy and I actually lived almost in the same town out in California and met because she was looking for a set of dies she'd seen on Pinterest. And we've been good friends ever since, even though I moved out of California 5 years ago. So stamping is a great way to meet people. It's also how I've met people here. I don't leave the house, as you know, because I work from home. So there's no reason for me to leave. And so Stampin' Up and having people over to stamp is how I've met all my friends in Idaho. So I'm just going to take a look at this. If I push it to the edge. Okay. Okay, to get it to stick on the back side, I'm going to put some, oops, take the cap off. I'm going to put some adhesive on either side. I'm going to position my bow where I want it, and then attach my ribbon. Oops, come on, stay put. So now if these were to fray, they're going to be buried underneath and nobody's going to see that. And I'm just putting this on at an angle. And then I'm going to color our sunflowers. I'm using bronze, old olive, and daffodil delight. Tried to save a little time by stamping and die cutting it before I went live, because there are 3 cards, you know. Wanted to have time for all of them and not waste your time sitting here watching me. And I've mentioned that I thought it was a waste of time watching me color, and then I've had a couple people say they like to watch it because they learn things. Oops, wrong end. So I'm just giving it little highlights of the dark old olive. And that's color coordination that matches with our designer series paper and our ink pads and all of that. It's one of my favorite things about Stampin' Up! Is that everything color coordinates. Makes it so much easier to make decisions. Oftentimes, if I want to make a card with designer series paper, I'll start out looking at the designer series paper pack. And on the back, it will list all the Stampin' Up! Colors that are involved in that pack of paper. And so I'll pull out those ink pads and those, you know, a full sheet of each color. And that helps me with my inspiration to know where to go forward from there. And if I was to run out of any one of those colors, I can always get a refill pack and they match exactly, which is something I never got from the big box stores. If I went in and got a new pad of paper, it didn't match, they go, oh, it's just a different dye lot, that's all. Well, that's not a problem with Stampin' Up. Okay, so there's our leaves. And with the blends, you just want to make small little circles and keep laying down color. If it's not blending, it means it's not wet enough. You want to give it so much color that it's actually going to bleed through to the back side. And they last a long time. I haven't had to replace very many of mine. And if you watch my lives, you know I color with them all the time. And we use them in class. So as long as the caps are put back on them and the caps are tight, we're good. Because that was the problem with the blendabilities that they put out before these, is the caps were not tight enough. Manufacturer-wise, they just weren't tight. And so they would dry out sooner than they were supposed to. And so that's why Stampin' Up! Took them off the market and created something else that doesn't have that problem. Stampin' Up! Is really good about standing behind their products. And if something comes out and it doesn't work well, they'll pull it from the market until they can perfect it and then bring it back. So if you ever get a stamp set or something and it's not working as supposed to, let's talk. It could be that you need, you know, a little practice with it or some directions. But occasionally, not very often, occasionally there is a flaw in a stamp set and it won't stamp correctly. So let me know if you ever have issues and we can send them photos and make sure that they make it right. That's funny. Wendy's saying how she got ink on the back of her leg the other day. That's funny. Okay, so that's ready to go. And this has kind of small stems to it. So I'm going to come in with mini dimensionals. Stampin' Up! Has had dimensionals for years and years and years, these big ones, and we've cut them apart and used the edges and all of that. But a couple of years ago, they made minis. And so now we have these little ones that work perfect for little stuff like this. Has anybody taken advantage of those awesome die sets that are out right now for the piggies, the Yeti, the tree, for the Christmas, trimming the tree? Anyway, all 6 of those sets of dies go away in 10 days. So if you wanted a set of those, don't pay eBay prices. Get them while Stampin' Up! Still sells them, because those things that go out limited release, people later on are sorry they didn't get them, and they'll pay a fortune for them somewhere else. Okay, so there's 2 different versions of that card, just kind of slightly different. This one's got white. This is very vanilla. The ribbon's on a little different. The DSP's a little different, but very similar. Okay, card number 2. I'm going to start with a card base that folds the other way. This will be kind of a portrait style. That's how I refer to it. I guess we're going landscape, but the deal is, instead of cutting at the 5.5, I scored at the 5.5 and cut at the 4 1/4. So it's just a different direction. Card bases are almost always cut in half, score in half. And with the 8.5 by 11, it can go either way. So you either get a card that does this, or you get a card that does this. Just cut in half, score in half. This is, again, like I said, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5.5. And it's Gorgeous Grape. I have a layer of Highland Heather that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I have a layer of Basic White that is 3 3/4 by 5. And so we're going to lay those this way. And for this one, I'm making a background for our flowers. And so to do that, I just took that same stamp we used before. Make sure it's clean. And then I'm going to ink it up. And then kind of stamp it down the center. Now, if you wanted to find true center, that's what this plus in the center of our grid paper is. That you could count up, however many blocks here and however many blocks here, and as long as you made it even, you're all centered. But I have a tendency to need to pull it towards me when I'm on camera so I can look straight down. That's when you get your best impression, looking from the top, looking down. Now, we're not going to worry about this too much because we're going to cover that up with our flowers. And for the flowers, I just took a piece of scrap paper. Let's see. It's not even going to matter what color it is because we're covering it up. So since I have very vanilla and this punch out, I'm just going to use that as my base. Now, remember, it's getting covered up. Don't panic that it doesn't match. And then my flowers are actually die cut from the Designer Series paper. I don't know if you have noticed, but all of our dies, I mean, like almost all of them, like the leaves, every flower on there, they all fit the Designer Series paper. So I just cut a bunch out and then arranged them on here. Let's see. What ones do I want? Nope, that's not going to go. Okay, let's see. See, at this point, you're just kind of playing around with colors. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue those onto that little scrap. All right, then what I'm going to do is stick it to the front with dimensionals underneath. And then that'll go on the front. For the center, I used our iridescent rhinestones. I don't see my take your pick tool. Probably right under my nose. Yeah, see, I wanted the flowers to be raised, but I didn't want to have to lift each one individually. So now I just put them all in a circle, a tag, something, and then raise that. Much simpler. The plaid. What plaid? On the back of here, this was the Oceanfront stamp set. I've been using the stamps in here for color blocking, and so it was just this one right here. Thank you for those of you who are catching those questions in the comments as I'm over here babbling. Like I said, the leaves also cut out with the dies. And I know there's some in here. I just can't put my fingers on them. So I'm going to tuck a few leaves in there as well. And I can easily do that with a glue dot. But let's go ahead and put the adhesive on these sections. Oh, and I put the happy birthday on there too. That was out of this same Happiness Abounds stamp set. I find myself using this a lot. I like the font and the little flourishes to that. To help get my words straight, I line them up on my grid paper and then set my block down on them. There we go. Got lucky. Normally, I always advise that we stamp before adhering the paper in case there's a boo-boo. We need to flip it over to the other side, but we got lucky. And there's card 2. Now for the inside, I used those other pieces. You know, when we're die cutting out of the designer series paper, we have a tendency to throw out those little bits on the side because it's not a whole flower, a whole Santa, a whole whatever it is. But I've been finding that if I put them on an edge of either the card front or the card inside, I can make use of all these little pieces that have a flat side, even the ones that have 2 flat sides. You know, or if I went to die cut one, like I tried to use my scan and cut and I had a setting wrong. And so this cut funny. But if I wanted to put this on a corner, see, I could find the good petals and then just cut this off. So when we think things are garbage, they're not always the case. So, oh, the DSP, this designer series paper is just our color family paper. The plaid, polka dot, striped, and I think flowers are on the other side of this one. They come in a pack of all the colors. Like this is from the Subtles collection. There's also, you know, the brights, regals, neutrals. They all have their own pack of paper. So that's where that plaid came from. But I have more plaid. You ready for our last card? How about that? Okay, this one uses the same stamp set, but this time I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use this one and this one. So I've got my card base, the 8.5 by 5.5 scored at 4 1/4. I have my 4-inch by 5 1/4 paper, and then I'm going to stamp in crushed curry, which is the color that I'm using here. And then the corner is going to be soft suede. Whoa, yikes. Whoa, calm down, guys. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to stamp with crushed curry ink. So I'm going to just ink this up, and then I'm going to come in from the corner, and I'm going to ink it up every time because I want my petals to all be the same color. Okay, now if I wanted to, I could come in with a second generation and stamp in between them, and it would be a fuller flower. But I'm going to stick with this because the idea was just to show you how they can be used in a different way other than the scene that we see in the catalog. Now I need soft suede, or let's see, early espresso. Use a brown for in the corner. This is meant to be a rock, but used this way, it does make a good center to my flower. And then again, I'm going to use ribbon. So here is our gingham ribbon. It's a 1/4 inch. I go ahead and use the bow maker tool again. So I make my little cancer ribbon, tuck underneath, pull over the top, and make a knot. And then because I want my little loops to go sideways, I'm going to pull this sideways. And again, I'm going to wrap it behind and bury those ends. So who learned something today? We learned to think a little bit outside the box. I'm not going to say all of these ideas were exactly mine all by myself. I did get inspiration from stuff I found online, but man, I had to do some digging. Okay. Okay, now for this, I used the hello out of our Artistically Inked, just because I thought it was a good size sentiment to fit inside that. And this is just one of our clear envelopes, and this is where I stick all my loose pieces of excess from that stamp set. When I was playing around with it last time, I had extra pieces, and rather than throw them in a drawer, if I keep them with the set, I'm more apt to use them. And we can go either way with this. I'm going to go a different direction just because. And then for to do the outside, the matte, I guess I want to say to it, what I did was I took the same Label Me Lovely punch and punched it out of, this time black, because that's what matches our ribbon. And then I took this and cut it in half. But I'm not going to use my fabric scissors. Come in with some snips. And then I'm going to use some liquid glue, so I have my wiggle room. And then I'm just laying this down on the back and then looking from the front to pull it in till they're the same size, basically. And now I have a matted hello. And this works with any number of our punches. And you can even do two of them. If I did two blacks, I could have it matte both directions. Okay, and my stamp, my punches, what do I want to say? My DSP or my cardstock was not the right size, but I don't need the whole thing. That's the beauty of this, is I can just cut off a little scrap. And that's all I need to make it matte all the way around. I didn't need the whole label. Okay, now I'm ready to just attach it with some dimensionals. And I've kind of used up this but I still have the edges and I'm not going to throw them away. So let's go ahead and use those pieces. And there we go. So we had our hello. We have our color blocking with the, what would you call those? What kind of flowers are those? I want to call them those weeds in the front yard. So we have our flowers, our sunflower, and then we have our bouquet of flowers here. So which one's your favorite? Which one are you hoping to win in our prize patrol? If you are looking for a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love the chance to be able to earn your business. And I invite you to come over and check out our little community over on Facebook. This is where all my best friends are, hanging out in the realm of creativity on Facebook. And we have a lot of fun over there, so, as you can tell from the way everybody's talking to each other in the comments. So I think I'm ready for prize patrol. Let's whip our desktop out of there, add that. And everybody has done that, right? You typed in hashtag prize patrol so you would get included in our little drawing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and spin. Congratulations, Peggy. You are our winner. Congratulations. It looks like you did comment you liked the sunflowers. Would you like this hello card as your prize? I can go ahead and pop that into mail to you today. And I invite you to come back and watch me again on Monday, and we do another live. I don't have my samples made yet. I've been trying to get better about that, but I do know what stamps that I'm working with next week. Next week, I will be working with the Santa's Delivery. Have you guys seen this one yet? This is a super cute bundle. It does have dies that coordinate with it and designer series paper, so it's kind of a whole suite. And then the dies cut out these as well as the designer series paper. There's some little train pieces on the designer series paper, and those dies cut them out. So super fun. I'm going to try to do some things that are kind of the way the stamp set goes and the way it doesn't. So hang out with me on Monday to find out how we play with that. I will be doing that on Monday and on Thursday so that you get lots of ideas to choose from. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you back here on Monday at 2:30. Thanks. Bye.